So this is the iPhone 14 Pro, and the fact that this video exists means a lot, as it takes a lot to get me truly interested in a phone these days, especially one from the last generation. So, what's it like, and should you buy the iPhone 14 Pro in 2024? First of all, as usual, let's quickly go over the specs. The iPhone 14 Pro features the Apple A16 Bionic processor, 6GB of RAM, and 128 to a terabyte of storage. My model here is the 128GB variant, and for me, this is plenty, but it's nice, as always, that if you need more, then upgradability is an option. It weighs in at 206 grams, which is nice and weighty without feeling overly heavy, and comes in either space black, silver, gold, or the one I have here, and my personal favorite, deep purple. As for the specs, that's pretty much it. If you're new around here, well, I try to get these out of the way as quickly as possible so we can get straight onto the really fun stuff. Moving on to the build quality, design, and button layout, well, what can I say? It's a pro-level iPhone. It is absolutely immaculate. It features that gorgeous frosted glass back, a stainless steel bezel, and a ceramic shield screen. Everything from the weight to the feel in your hand just screams quality. I've always been a huge sucker for frosted glass iPhones. Honestly, they're one of the biggest pulls for me on the pro side of things, despite not really needing one. Hold on, I'm just gonna go get my distinction H&D in computer science so Reddit doesn't get the satisfaction of saying, ooh, it's an iPhone user who's so vain because they care about what tech looks like. Let it go. It features an IP68 water resistance rating up to 6 meters for up to 30 minutes, and honestly, this is plenty. Just don't go cave diving with this thing. It probably won't last. Once again, this thing does have the ceramic shield screen, which Apple says does make your iPhone more durable to drops, and in my experience, this is true. Although I have had some people say that this does make their phone a little bit more prone to scratches, so it may be worth investing in a screen protector if that's something that you're worried about. I have also found the stainless steel bezel on iPhones to be a tad more prone to scratches than their aluminium counterparts as well, and this thing is covered in glass, so in my opinion, a case is a must unless you are super careful. Going back to the design, yes, we are finally going to address it. This was the first iPhone to feature that dynamic island design, and while we will be talking about that a bit more in a little bit, in terms of aesthetics, I honestly think Apple nailed it here. It looks great. Moving on to the button layout, it's pretty standard with a separated volume up and down buttons, an isolated lock button that's nice and big, and a mute switch. Honestly, this is pretty standard on the iPhone line at this point. All the buttons are nice and clicky, and yeah, no complaints here. Everything makes sense, and both the design and button layouts are excellent. Following on, we have the screen, which is a 6.1-inch 1179 by 2556 Super Retina XDR OLED display, and this thing is gorgeous. Not only is it 120Hz for some cool gaming action, but it also features that always-on technology, a first for Apple, and pretty neat if you're a fan of that coming from the Android side, like my friend Lee, who got an iPhone 14 Pro as his first iPhone ever last year. He loves it, by the way, if you're wondering. This iPhone, of course, does feature True Tone for nice, balanced colors in any environment, and haptic touch for some secondary interactions, both of which work fantastically well. The screen on the iPhone 14 Pro really is just phenomenal. It's nice and sharp with a PPI of 460, bright enough for use in all lighting conditions that I tried it in, with a typical peak brightness of 1000 nits and 2000 nits in high brightness mode. Honestly, I have no complaints here. iPhones have phenomenal screens, have had for a while, and thankfully the iPhone 14 Pro is no exception. Up next, we have the Face ID, and a little bit of a deeper look into that dynamic island technology, because it is super cool. In terms of Face ID, it's snappy as ever, works well in all lighting conditions and from several different angles. However, this is nothing new. What was new with this generation of iPhones, however, was the dynamic island. This is such a cool little innovation from Apple. Not only did it do away with the notch entirely, but it also added extra functionality, like being able to quick access timers, songs, or get waveforms when you're on the phone. It really is quite a useful and cool little addition, and due to the fact that the screen is OLED, it almost looks like it's shape-shifting into other objects when it transforms due to the true blacks from the screen. Yeah, I initially thought this would be a little gimmicky, but in my opinion, this is by far the best way that Apple could have got rid of that notch, and in my opinion, it was executed pretty much perfectly. And moving on to one of my favorite sections, we have the camera. The 14 Pro features that 3-camera system that was introduced on the iPhone 11 Pro, and honestly, it is really cool. It features a 48 megapixel f1.8 wide-angle camera, a 12 megapixel f2.8 telephoto, and a 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra-wide. It also features a 12 megapixel f1.9 front-facing camera. In terms of actual photo performance though, this thing really really shines, honestly. It features raw photos in the form of ProRAW and ProRAW Max, and not only does this make editing the photos a lot more versatile, the detail on these shots is absolutely amazing. For close-ups, we have the 2 or 3 times zoom camera, including macro mode, and while this doesn't look as good as the rest of the photos, I honestly think that this is a worthy trade-off for getting such awesome close-ups. The ultra-wide also does look great for some of those ultra-wide shots, with minimal distortion around the edges, and overall, photos from this thing really shine. They have great colors, sharpness, and dynamic range all around. Of course, portrait mode is a thing here. That works excellently. That has worked excellently for a really long time. Also, night mode. Yeah, again, night mode. Very good. The camera on the 14 Pro really is one of the standout points in my opinion. This is extended to the selfie camera as well, and while it isn't as detailed as the rest of the cameras, it is still perfect for some selfies. Of course, this thing also shoots video in 4K at up to 60 FPS with 10-bit HDR for better color grading and Dolby Vision HDR. These look pretty great for phone videos in my opinion, and for casual videos, this thing kind of rocks. This is further improved by a brilliant cinematic mode that works really nicely, is nice and customizable in terms of depth of field, and gives that shallow, blurred out background that you wouldn't usually get on a phone due to the size of their sensor. So yeah, that's pretty nice. I've actually only ever tried this once before on the iPhone 13, and that had some issues with it. It was only available in 1080p and 30 FPS, which, but here it works in 4K, it works in 24 FPS, which is what I wanted to see on the iPhone 13. And yeah, in my opinion, it is finally a really good piece of technology. It also features slow-mo as well, 1080p and up to 240 FPS. And again, this looks pretty good. Overall, the camera on this thing really is a standout point, as it usually is on the pro-level iPhones. And if you are an enthusiast mobile photographer, you'll be glad to know that this thing can keep up. Next up, we have the ever-important OS and app performance. The iPhone 14 Pro, of course, runs the latest version of iOS, and if you buy it now, chances are it will last for at least 5 iterations of iOS, probably more, honestly. And seeing as this thing shipped with iOS 16, that's a hell of a lot of support. In terms of performance, scrolling through the OS, opening up stock apps, and performing system functions are all flawless, which is honestly to be expected. I could be a bit upset if it wasn't. Like, this is a last generation phone that cost $1,000 new. Honestly, I'd be pretty upset if I'd had any issues whatsoever here. Trying out more intense tasks like watching 4K videos or gaming, again, the 14 Pro passes with flying colors. Things like the 120Hz screen mean that gaming on this thing is an absolute pleasure, with the performance from the specs to back it up with no issues, and the gorgeous screen means that watching videos is awesome, with absolutely no performance issues whatsoever. Chances are, if this thing stutters when you're watching a video, it's probably your connection. Yeah, performance rocks, what can I say? Quickly, going back to the hardware, we have these speakers. The 14 Pro features a stereo speaker configuration using both the bottom speaker and the headset speaker to create a wider, more full sounding, more rounded out sound. It gets loud enough, it sounds pretty good for phone speakers, honestly. And well, if you are doing something more intense like GarageBand, you might want to connect some external headphones, especially if you're mixing for stuff like watching videos or throwing on music while you cook. You know what these speakers are designed for. Honestly, I don't think you'll have any problems. I didn't have any problems. Chances are you won't either. Finally, and ever important, we have the battery life. The iPhone 14 Pro features a 3200 mAh lithium-ion battery, and in terms of actual real-world usage, as long as you have good battery health, honestly, you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever getting through your day. Well, it won't last 2 days like the iPhone 11. It will certainly last you the day, despite the awesome screen, incredible camera, and all of those amazing features. Like, especially when we were filming all of the B-roll for this thing, which involved doing all of the things that I've talked about in this review, honestly, we had no issues. We were filming all day. Oh my god, this one took so long. And yeah, no issues whatsoever, which is nice. Overall, the iPhone 14 Pro is still a very capable iPhone in 2024. My friend Lee actually bought one of these towards the end of last year due to issues with the 15 Pro's availability when he needed a phone. He's been daily driving it ever since, and he absolutely loves it, despite not having the USB-C from the 15 Pro, and maybe being a little overkill for what he actually needs. I really hope he doesn't watch this video. This seriously is a massive powerhouse of a phone, and if you want to save some money, don't care about USB-C, and don't mind buying used, then this phone is an absolute no-brainer in 2024. Alright guys, so that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Let me know, by the way, what do you think of the iPhone 14 Pro? Do you want one? Have you bought one? Are you watching this video on one? Feel free to let me know in the comments. I always enjoy reading those. As for now though, as always, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you want to see more content like this, then smash that subscribe button. I'm done for now, and I will see you guys in the next one.